the Amazing World of Gumball again. If you're a person who loves watching cartoons, odds are you love the Amazing World of Gumball. Not only can this show be described as emotionally complex, chaotically creative, and even sometimes downright hilarious, but it's also earned a dedicated fan base of people who will probably burn your house down if you ever call it mid. All jokes aside, the Amazing World of Gumball consists of 99% bangers, but it's the 1% that can sometimes be enough to tarnish a show's reputation and destroy a legacy once revered as near flawless. To be honest, I'm kind of just yapping. Listen, if we take a look at some of the worst rated Gumball episodes of all time, we'll find a handful of stories that most people seem to agree just kind of suck. Whether it's Gumball being forced into a generational depression or the entire Watterson family basically just complaining about life for 12 minutes straight. How ironic that I'm complaining about it right now. Even the most die-hard fans tend to agree these episodes kinda missed the mark, and with season 7 seemingly just around the corner, I know viewers are super excited to finally watch some new episodes. It's been like 6 or 7 years by this point, but while we hold out just a little longer, for now, you guys gotta deal with me. I'll try my best. So today, I'll be explaining everything that happens in these two quote-unquote bad episodes, while also giving my own opinion along the way. Are these episodes really as bad as people say they are? Do you think these episodes destroy the pillar of excellence that Gumball spent 8 years building up? Well, grab your copy of Sonic Chronicles for the Nintendo DS, and let's now watch what some people call the episode that destroyed Gumball. This first episode that people dislike is called The Robot. Surely this guy will be super nice. It's not like people have ever mistreated robots before. We start at the school where we see a gang of characters playing soccer or football, if you're a bloke, in it. This robot's name is Bobert, and he's kind of a loner. No one really wants to hang out with him. Everyone makes fun of him with no remorse because they figure he's a robot and doesn't actually have feelings. Tell that to my iDog back in 2005. Skipper, if you hear this, I'm sorry and I love you. This is when we cut to Gumball and Darwin playing with some dolls. Trust me, this is very cool.
Would you like a cup of tea, Mrs. Wigglelocks? Don't mind if I do, Mrs. Pumpkin.
Just a couple guys being dudes. They're not dolls, they're action figures. Probably. Gumball and Darwin notice that Bobert is a little depressed and ask if they could help him out. You see, Bobert is sad because he wants to be a real boy, which in 2025 could mean he gets drafted into World War III. Might want to wait a while to see how that one goes first. Just my opinion. Gumball explains that to be a real person, Bobert needs to understand how to use emotions. I'm a little confused by this, to be honest, because we literally just saw this dude being sad, I thought. Maybe he's only got 2 modes installed and the Switch isn't at the right setting. I don't know. In an attempt to demonstrate what emotion is, Gumball pinches Darwin and makes him scream. To fight back, Darwin pinches Gumball, which makes him scream. Of course, this wouldn't be a bad episode if one of the characters wasn't tortured for some reason. SpongeBob fans are all too familiar with that one. I know, firsthand. The next 30 seconds is, and I'm not kidding here, Gumball and Darwin just crying on the floor for a bit. It's obviously very sad. If we weren't all dead inside ourselves, I'm sure most of us would cry with them. All jokes aside, this is actually a great display of emotion, which you'd think Bobert would understand, but because he's a robot, he just spews out some random equation, and this entire moment just exists to make you realize that this guy is basically an NPC.
X over Y plus the square root of the hypotenuse.
Nerd!
Eventually, Gumball lets Bobert know that to be a real person, what he has to do is be really cool. It's a bit ambiguous, don't you think? Bobert does a funny haha and pulls out a fan because cool means cold, and he's a robot. Get it? For his last attempt to help Bobert, Gumball walks like a default Roblox character because that's apparently very cool and very human. Bobert fails at this because of course he does. To be honest, this scene lasts a while and drags out a lot. Like, this entire scene is basically the cartoon equivalent of that one piano video with 3 trillion notes being played. Nothing really going on here. Eventually, the boys figure that Bobert's voice is the problem, so the robot simulates Gumball's voice and now can imitate him perfectly. This makes everyone laugh, including Bobert, so now I guess he's a real boy.
I am a real boy. Thanks.
What is going on? I love when you can tell that some cartoons need to reach certain time thresholds, so they just add awkward silence in all the time. 10 out of 10 moment. It's peak, honestly. Later that night at Bobert's house, and we see him still a bit sad, which is an emotion, because although he sounds like Gumball, he still looks like a robot. But then, we get this episode's first evil twist when Bobert says this.
Initiating transformation.
Yeah, this is gonna end well. Surely. The next day, back at school, a bunch of random students are talking about how Gumball is funny and kind of cute. That's how you know something's wrong. Gumball opens his locker, but all his stuff is gone. That's kind of weird. Gumball eats a burger, but this dude takes it out of his mouth because the school has a strict 1 burger per person policy. So 2 things here about this whole burger situation. 1, obviously this is a little weird because Gumball only had 1 burger. What's going on? This is so mysterious. And 2, the burger that Gumball put in his mouth is later served to a little cactus girl. This isn't isn't that important, but just kind of unfortunate for her. Don't eat it, please. This is when Gumball sees a girl named Penny give a kiss to Bobert, who she thinks is Gumball, but is actually just a Weasley little liar. I can see where she got confused. The resemblance is uncanny. Gumball gets mad because Bobert has essentially stolen his identity. He's talking like him, he's looking like him, and according to Bobert himself, he knows absolutely everything about Gumball now. As far as everyone else is concerned, these two are basically the same person. So far, this episode is a little weird, but nothing's overly bad or hate-worthy, in my opinion. But what happens next is the reason most people seem to really dislike this episode. Saddle up, cowboy. We're in for a ride. Gumball is now walking home. It's dark out now for some reason. He must have used the Biddy Bud and Cute Scoot combo. It's very slow. When he tries to enter his house, he notices the front door is locked. He goes around to the backyard, but the back door is also locked, which is when Gumball peeks through the window and sees Bobert having dinner with his family. Not only that, but the parents say how much better this version of Gumball has been lately. The real Gumball essentially watching his family getting taken right in front of him.
You're the best son a family could wish for.
Jeez, I can't even blame Gumball, because like, he didn't do anything wrong. He doesn't deserve that. Obviously, Gumball did nothing wrong in this episode, and I'd go as far to say that Gumball was maybe the only person that did anything right, or at least tried to. And yet, for some reason, in this episode, Gumball gets hit with some psychological warfare. He gets like super depressed. He sleeps outside for the night in the freezing cold. I'm not kidding. You can like see this guy shivering and everything. To a lot of people, this is just super mean-spirited to a character that didn't really deserve it, at least, you know, at the time. I always found it odd that writers love torturing their most beloved characters. It seems like most people don't love watching those episodes, but also this is just a goofy cartoon, and I don't know much about the show, to be honest, so like, who cares, honestly. The next morning, when Darwin and Bobert are playing outside, Gumball comes in frame, and Brawnbreaker spears Bobert into another dimension. Really, though, these two just fight for a bit. Bobert activates his self-defense protocol, or as I like to call it, the actual Death Star. Bobert starts shooting lasers everywhere. I'm pretty sure he's trying to turn Darwin into a cooked salmon. Eventually, he turns into his final form, which is part Mauga, part Panda, and part DJ, I think. This action scene is like a third of the whole episode. There's a nuke that goes off and everything. It's very epic and unfortunately very topical. Eventually, what takes Gumball out though is Bobert just punching him in the face. Dude loses half his teeth. He gets a black eye. It's not good. You should go to a hospital like right away. Of course though, as Bobert is about to finish the job, the sprinkler randomly turns on and disables all of Bobert's weapons. Bobert pleads to let this version of him live a little longer, but Gumball doesn't care and just resets his software anyway. He does this by touching his eye or something, I think is like what they show. Seems like a bad spot for a system reset button, but what do I know? I'm not an engineer, dude. Okay, I don't know. Bobert is back to normal, which is to say not human. And to end off the episode, we then get this clip.
What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
And that was one of the most hated Gumball episodes of all time. I'm trying not to be too harsh on this because I don't think this one is really that bad. It's pretty mean-spirited. It bullies a character that was just trying to help. And overall, I'd much rather watch an episode where the boys do something fun. But honestly, if this is one of the most hated episodes, then it just goes to show how good this TV show really is. The part where Gumball falls into a full-on depression for 30 seconds was a little weird. Okay, I'll admit that. But that's just what Gumball is about. What's that? Can't handle a little depression, you casual? I know that feeling all too well. But I'll talk more about this episode at the very end of the video, because now that we've got one out of the way, it's now time to watch the episode people say they hate, an episode people say is really bad, and according to some, the episode that completely destroyed Gumball. This episode, that many say is the worst, is fittingly called The Worst. I've gotten countless comments about this episode specifically. If you know what this episode is, I'm sorry in advance. This episode starts off on the wrong foot entirely when Anais is so mad that she low-key kills two characters instantly. I wish I was kidding. Gumball and Darwin are also very angry themselves, so much so that they give these menacing glances at random side characters, which quite literally kills them off as well. Like, you can see the life of these guys leave their body. It's actually insane. What are we doing? That potato was friendly. He probably had a family or something. Thankfully, this is nothing more than just kids being kids. Nothing here is too serious. Oh wait, no, the mom is also just as mad. Nicole is seen elbow dropping her car. Richard is seen breaking all of the family's plates. Everyone here is having a bad time and we literally have no idea why. My guess is that GTA 6 got delayed again. I know Richard is a big fan of that franchise. In all seriousness, this is when the whole family sits down at the dinner table together. We find out that everyone here basically had a bad day, except no one here blames their individual experiences, but rather the societal burdens put on them based on their gender and age. I'm not kidding. Gumball and Darwin say that being a guy is hard, but Nicole retorts saying that being a girl is much harder. To be honest, she might have a point. She explains it perfectly in this scene.
Beating a woman is the worst. It's like playing one of your video games without the stick of happiness.
Anais says that being a kid is hard, but Richard claps back, saying that being an adult is much harder. We essentially have two guild battles going on at the same time here. Girl versus boy and young versus old. What is this? A Mr. Beast video? What are we doing here? This is when every character tells the story about their day one by one. Well, almost every character. Gumball and Darwin explained that while in the boys' locker room at school, they used a very fruity smelling body wash, which everyone laughed at them for because men are supposed to smell like sandalwood and phoenix and infinite, whatever that is. This part actually is kind of funny because it's totally aware of how silly it is to make fun of someone's masculinity in this way.
They don't smell like the chemicals we've been taught to associate with manliness.
Quick, everyone.
That's actually really funny. What's that? You smell like strawberries? I think you dropped your girl stuff over there. Anyway, everyone makes fun of them because Andrew Tate has infected their brains, which is why they're crying at the dinner table in real time. Nicole explains that women have it way worse and explains what happened during her day. Nicole is seen at her job asking her boss why only men have ever gotten Employee of the Month. The boss explains that if they were to put a picture of a woman up on the wall, all the guys would get distracted. At heart, we're all just ooga booga cavemen, okay, with brains like chimps. Let's be honest. All the guys around Nicole get promoted, including this plant that isn't even alive. And then to top it all off, the boss tells Nicole to smile more around the office, obviously showcasing inequality around the workplace. I hate inequality and stomach cramps. I'm 6'1", by the way. There's also this random Wolf of Wall Street reference where all the dudes are doing that humming song for some reason. So not only does Nicole explain that she gets paid 22% less than all the men, but she also has to let them take all the credit, which is obviously wrong and shouldn't be a thing, but it does lead to Richard's funniest line in the episode.
To let them take all the credit.
You're right. That's a very good point, Gumball.
I shouldn't be laughing at that, but Richard is so goofy. That character is written perfectly for what he is. Anais has her turn, except not really, when she explains that being a kid is tough because the generation before her totally ruined the planet and the economy. There's no flashback here. Everyone just like rubs her face for a bit, and that's like her entire portion of the story. She doesn't really get one for some reason. I guess it like fits for being a child. Richard's turn, and he talks about how being an adult is tough. Not gonna lie, I agree with you. I guess he was at the grocery store earlier that day and harassing the workers there, making them do dubstep noises with the fish. I'm not kidding. But yeah, the workers get mad and told him to grow up, and that's Richard's whole argument. Kind of weak, to be honest, but I stand with my goat. This is when the entire family argues for a bit and eventually decide to swap roles with each other to see who really has it worse. Other than the meta commentary about dated gender roles, there's not really anything to enjoy about this episode, to be honest, especially if you're in this show's target demographic. Like, wouldn't you much rather watch Gumball and Darwin do something exciting instead of complaining and crying the whole time? Whatever, I don't know, maybe I'm the weird one, who knows? The next day, and everyone's swapped roles, Anais wakes up at 6 a.m. and breaks her back because she's old now and that's what old people do. Richard tries to make his way to school, but crashes his car right away because kids can't drive. Very unlucky, not gonna lie. Gumball waxes his body hair and makes the most cursed face of all time. Darwin applies approximately 6 pounds of makeup onto his face before beginning his day. Both of these are hashtag just girl things, according to this episode. Nicole, on the other hand, has barely washed herself at all. She looks in the mirror and is almost completely unrecognizable.
Wow.
Yeah, guys are ugly as hell, I'm not gonna lie. We really do be using one towel for everything and for like a week straight. Anais gets on the bus to go to work, eats one donut, and immediately gets fat, quickly reminding everyone how over it is after you reach 40 years old. Gumball and Darwin are women now, and at first all the guys want to do everything for them, which is cool, but it gets condescending and they feel really annoyed very quickly. Nicole is walking around and she's just ugly. That's the bit. Guys are ugly. Everyone screams and runs away. This definitely seems more like it's making fun of women without makeup instead of men, but whatever. I didn't rate this episode. Richard is at school and is stressed about exams. That's valid, honestly. +1 for the children. Anxiety is the worst. Anais has no imagination anymore. El Bozo. Gumball and Darwin get crushed by a literal invisible glass ceiling, which is actually very funny and clever. I like that bit a lot, honestly. It might be one of my favorite bits in all of Gumball. And finally, Nicole gets injured at her labor job, but can't ask for help or complain because guys are not allowed to do that. Just keep smiling. It is what it is. The whole family later arrives home just as mad as they were at the very beginning of the episode. None of the conflict solved, really, at all. It's just been a completely miserable day for everyone. Nothing enjoyable happened to any of these characters. Very interesting creative decision, not gonna lie. Gumball states that settles the debate then. Everyone here, regardless of gender or age, has it equally bad. Nicole gets really mad because as she explains it, there are actual imbalances that aren't fair. Gumball doesn't really care though because he's a guy, Lamau, and the entire episode ends with this final clip of Nicole.
Women always get cut off in the middle of their...
And that was the episode that completely destroyed Gumball. Was it really that bad? Listen, I didn't like it. I thought there was some clear issues with it, but I don't think it was like unwatchable or anything. I completely understand the point people make when they say that this episode feels like it tries too hard. Apparently, it does its best to come up with examples of inequality and ends up reading like a parody of itself more than an actual episode of Gumball. Not everyone likes social commentary in their cartoons, and a lot of people probably actually hate it. On top of the weird subject matter, it's also an episode where everyone is just mad and annoyed all the time, which isn't the funnest thing to watch. It's the reason I crack a bunch of jokes in my videos instead of just complaining for 20 minutes straight like a bunch of other people. This is meant to be enjoyable. This is a team thing. This episode is so hated to the point where some people have even speculated that the creators wanted to make a bad episode on purpose because it's just that bad. Compared to the first episode, which has a very average issue and solution, where the only real problem is that it doesn't respect its characters, honestly, this last episode feels like it somehow disrespects its viewers, which just isn't a good feeling for a lot of people. Like I said, I don't really care that much. It's just a cartoon, and I'm just like some random guy talking about it on the internet. That's all I am. Of course, there's gonna be those comments that say stuff like, it's not that serious, bro. It's just a bit for the memes, which like, sure, but also no one has to like it. So like, I don't know. What are we arguing about here? What are we doing? Anyway, that's it for the video. Please leave a like and comment something goofy. It helps me out a ton. We are so incredibly close to 100,000 subscribers. I can't believe I'm almost there. It's actually kind of mind-blowing. If you enjoy the content and want to support me further, you can become a channel member, which starts at only a single $1. It gets your username on the screen here at the end of all my future videos, and eventually members will have access to my full unedited reactions to everything I watch, if that interests you. That's not a feature yet, but I plan on starting it later this year with a certain franchise. Thank you so much to all my current members. You guys rock, and your support genuinely means the world to me. Paula Abdul scores this one a solid 2 bad episodes out of 5. And yeah, thanks for watching.